This problem involves converting between two different prefixes within the metric system. So I'm looking at this example. I'm given a measurement of 15 centimeters and I want to convert it to millimeters. So what's changing here is just that letter in front, just the prefix. I'm still dealing with the same base unit of meters within the metric system. When you're dealing with this type of problem, I would suggest the strategy of converting first to the base unit and doing this type of problem in 2 steps. So the strategy that I'm going to use for this problem is I'm going to start with the unit that's given to me, which is what I always do. So I'm going to go from centimeters. I'm going to convert this to just meters alone. This is the base unit without any prefix. I'm doing this as my first step because just by using that definition of centi, I can get a relationship or an equivalence between centimeters and meters. In my second step, I'm going to go to the new prefix and I'm going to convert meters into millimeters using the definition of milli, and that will be my second step in this type of problem. Before I start setting things up, first I'm going to define my equivalences for step 1 and for step 2. And this part is tricky. Getting those equivalences correct when you're using prefixes in the metric system. So first off, I recognize that C. The C stands for centi, and I know my factor for centi is 1/100th, or 1 times 10 to the negative 2. In order to use my prefix correctly, I need to figure out where do I put this number when I write my equivalence. I would suggest starting with the unit that has the prefix. So I'm going to start off with 1 centimeter. And then on the other side, in place of the C, I'm going to put that factor of what centi stands for, the 1 times 10 to the negative 2. My base unit here is meters, and I just wrote an equivalence that establishes the relationship between 1 centimeter is the same as 1 times 10 to the negative 2 meters. This is my equivalence for step 1. I can convert from centimeters to meters. In step 2, I need another equivalence, but now I'm going to use my definition for milli. So I recognize that M in front. When I've got a lowercase m as my prefix, it stands for milli. The factor there is 1 times 10 to the negative 3. I need to write an equivalence including this factor, 1 times 10 to the negative 3. I'm going to do it the same way, so I'm going to start off with the unit that has the prefix, 1 millimeter. In place of that m on the opposite side is where I'm going to put the factor, 1 times 10 to the negative 3. That's what milli stands for. When you write your equivalences within the metric system, it's important to notice how the prefix, the letter, in this case the lowercase m, and the factor are on opposite sides. So I have my equivalences for steps 1 and step 2. I'm ready to start the problem, and I'm always going to start with the same number in front, and that's the one that's given to me in the problem. So the number in front is going to be that 15 centimeters. I'm going to set up my first conversion factor. I'm looking at my first equivalence. In step 1, I want to convert from centimeters to meters, and I want to get rid of the units of centimeters. So I'm going to look at my first equivalence. I'm going to take the whole left-hand side, and I'm going to put that 1 centimeter on the bottom. I'm going to take the whole right-hand side, and I'm going to do the 1 times 10 to the negative 2, and I'm going to put it on top. This conversion factor here, this fraction, represents step 1. I'm getting rid of the units of centimeters, and I'm in the middle of my strategy. I've got units of meters. I'm going to set up another conversion factor. I'm going to do these 2 steps right in a row. In the second step, I'm converting from meters to millimeters. I want to get rid of meters, so I'm looking at my second equivalence. I'm trying to figure out what goes on the bottom. I need to put units of meters on the bottom so it cancels. So I'm going to do 1 times 10 to the negative 3 meters, and that's going to go on bottom. On the top is going to be that 1 millimeter, the whole left-hand side. If I look at how these units cancel, the meters are gone, and the only units I'm left with are the ones that I'm trying to find, which are these units of millimeters. So I am ready to do my math here. I've got my units canceling the way they're supposed to. In my calculator, I'm going to enter 15. I'm going to multiply by 1 times 10 to the negative 2, and I'm going to divide by 1 times 10 to the negative 3. And what I should end up with for my answer is 150, and my units here are millimeters. Now it makes sense to me. I know that a millimeter is smaller than a centimeter, so it makes sense to me that I'm ending up with a bigger number. If I wanted to change to a smaller unit, I'm going to need more of them to make up the same length if all I'm doing here is a unit conversion. So I hope this video helps you as you work through these conversions within the metric system.